when it involves religion atau agama, memang susah lah. It's a sure way to start controversy and to ignite all sorts of emotions yang extreme lah.
It's a place of safety. It's a place of care. It's a place of love. We draw lah on that. Even in places of worship, it needs to be upskill. There needs to be awareness.
Zaman sekarang ni kan, kita banyak mendengar juga pendapat-pendapat di mana masjid itu sendiri perlu menjadi inklusif, di mana ia bukan saja tempat untuk solat, bukan tempat untuk sembahyang saja. Jadi waktu-waktu lain boleh menjadi tempat untuk menyebarkan ilmu. Even ada masjid yang buat carnival, OKU.
It's sometimes about the timing. Because if you go, let's say, to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, it is a place of worship, but it is also a tourist attraction.
Hai, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. Kembali semula ke podcast Kita Family. Hari ini kita akan berada dalam episod ke-48. Saya, Didi, berada di Kota Kinabalu, dan bersama saya yang berada di studio di Kuala Lumpur, Desiree.
Hai, salam sejahtera.
Anit.
Hello.
Dan SK.
Apa khabar?
Podcast Kita Family. Dalam podcast ini, kami akan membincangkan perihal yang berkaitan dengan makna serta kepentingan hidup bermasyarakat, menghargai keunikan serta kepelbagaian sesama kita, dan meraihkan masyarakat kita yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita menghargai hidup secara inklusif yang mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat, terutama bagi mereka yang kurang atau berkelainan upaya. Well, kita sudah sampai ke episod ke-48. Alhamdulillah, almost every week kita publish a new podcast, new episode, Alhamdulillah. Dan hari ini kita akan menggunakan format yang sedikit lain. Kita pernah buat format ni, tapi kalau selalunya kita akan bawakan topik khas satu tema dan kita bincangkan secara menyeluruh dalam keseluruhan episod. Tapi untuk kali ini, kita akan bincangkan beberapa isu semasa tentang autism yang berlaku di negara kita dan juga di peringkat antarabangsa. Dah bersedia?
Bersedia.
Ready to go?
Okay. So sejak Disember hingga sekarang ada beberapa isu yang timbul dan menjadi viral di media sosial terutamanya. Dan of course bila viral tu dia menjadi tumpuan dan perbincangan yang hangat di kalangan komuniti keluarga yang mempunyai anak-anak autistik. Jadi topik pertama yang kita nak bincangkan ialah tentang satu statement yang dikeluarkan oleh seorang yang saya pun tak sure dia ustaz, penceramah ataupun mufti. Tapi rasanya bukan mufti. Cuma ada sebilangan yang menggelarkan individu tersebut sebagai mufti, dan statement dia berbunyi begini: haram ibu bapa melepaskan anaknya yang autism aktif mengganggu jemaah yang sedang solat di masjid. Jadi dalam 1 hingga 2 hari setelah statement ni dikeluarkan, dan of course statement ni dikongsi, di-share, diviralkan di kalangan komuniti autism. Dan setelah berbagai perbincangan, of course dia ada yang mengecam, ada yang bersetuju, ada yang rasa statement tu betul, sampai saya rasa mungkin individu yang membuat pernyataan ini mendapat tekanan yang hebat sehingga dia sendiri pun menurunkan posting tersebut. Cuma dalam perbincangan kan, ada yang berkongsi hukum fatwa yang dikeluarkan oleh mufti daripada negeri, fatwa-fatwa negeri menyatakan bahawa tiada hukum haram untuk kanak-kanak ataupun mereka yang autism untuk datang ke masjid. Tak ada langsung tahu perkataan haram tu. Cuma impactnya kan bila berlaku uh, viral perkara sebegini ada berbagai-bagai connotation lah. Ada yang mengatakan, ya betul, kalau sesuatu itu memberi gangguan kepada mereka yang beribadah di masjid, ialah sesuatu yang haram. Tapi hukumnya sebenarnya adalah tidak digalakkan, dan kita pun sebagai ibu bapa sangat aware bahawa tanggungjawab ibu bapa untuk mengawal anak-anak bukan setakat di rumah ibadah, of course di mana-mana saja. Jadi kita nak dengar uh, ulasan sedikit, mungkin kita boleh mulakan dengan Desiree. What do you think bila isu-isu macam ni timbul di social media?
This is a tough one actually kan, sebab when it involves religion atau agama, memang susah lah. It's a sure way to start controversy and to ignite all sorts of emotions yang ekstrim lah. Tapi dari segi agama mungkin saya tak komen sangat, sebab dalam semua rumah ibadat pun ada cabarannya untuk kawan-kawan dan anak-anak kita yang neurodivergent kan. So contohnya di gereja juga, right, saya sendiri mengalami cabaran untuk membawa anak ke gereja. Saya sebenarnya can be considered bertuah sebab I'm the one who had been holding back all these years untuk membawa Hans kerana takut akan diberitahu, oh kenapa anak you tak boleh duduk diam, kenapa anak you tak boleh hormat the proceedings, because I have seen it happen with typical children. And saya juga pernah dengar daripada mereka-mereka di gereja talking about other people's children. Why do you bring that child to church? You have not taught them what to do in church, how to sit, how to, so if it's said about a neurotypical child, apalagi anak saya yang autistic, right? But having said that, it is not a lost cause lah. And we always believe that there is hope, dan I would like to use this opportunity to tell people that let's not take it at face value lah. Bila kenyataan ini keluar, ini sebenarnya peluang untuk kita speak up. Right? I'm not saying fight. Janganlah pergi bergaduh. But it's the time to speak up and to advocate. Yang berani untuk buat, silakan. No one is stopping you from saying your piece. Kan? And I have done it over many years in my own way. Sometimes not very well received. Kan? Memanglah dalam masa when it's not well received or it's ignored, orang buat tak tahu, people say I'm overreacting, memang rasa sedih. But the point is, don't give up. Because there will come a point, someone will listen, someone will do something about it, which I have shared in previous episodes, my success with the Catholic Archdiocese of KL, Catechetical Ministry, even with my own parish. Dan baru-baru hari ini pun saya dapat message dari seorang dari gereja yang lain who is in the community of the Catechetical Ministry, dan dia tahu saya buat kerja seperti ini, ada podcast, saya advocate and all that, dan dia hantar a Google form to me sebab mereka akan mengadakan satu acara di gereja mereka dan mereka mahu acara tersebut inklusif. So they're sending out a form for parents and caregivers to fill up. So dia tanya, ada tak apa-apa yang kurang dalam borang ini, boleh diperbaiki, right? So I think there are many ways we can look at this issue. Yes, memang isu ni will ignite very extreme emotions, right? But we can also use it to as a starting point to teach those who don't know. Mungkin orang yang berkata ni yang bergelar mufti or imam, sorry if I'm getting the terms wrong, mungkin beliau tak tahu what is it to be autistic. Kan? So I think we want to also give people the benefit of the doubt lah. And at the end of the day, when it comes to religion, all religion teaches us to love and to accept everyone, tak kira lah siapa. The main thing about religion is to love and to accept.
Okay, can I just say, I think it's sometimes about the timing. Because if you go, let's say, to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, it is a place of worship, but it is also a tourist attraction. where members of the public and the tourists are allowed to go in just to admire the beauty, and some even of different faiths who stop and say a prayer. But there are certain times that the Blue Mosque is closed to the public. So similarly, I think if certain members of any mosque rasa macam that time should be the quiet time where people don't come, maybe it could be a suggestion that waktu-waktu ini kalau ada anak yang aktif ataupun yang akan buat bising, sila jangan datang pada masjid pada masa-masa tertentu. And that would ensure that jemaah-jemaah yang pergi kepada masjid itu dapat beribadah dengan tenang, because that is already a rule set out. I mean, that is a possible way, because you will then have those quiet times and also allow somebody who's neurodivergent to still enjoy the mosque at other times. So maybe that is just a suggestion that could be put out there instead of just a blanket ban.
So just to add to kedua-dua ni, sebenarnya tempat beribadat is a safe place for both the child and the parents.
Parent,
Yeah.
yep.
So in my experience, I worship in a what we term as a charismatic church. Yeah. Sebenarnya charismatic church ni agak berbunyi with a lot of singing, a lot of sounds. And in that instance, banyak kalanya memang tak sesuai for many of our children who may be sensitive to not only sounds, but in my church, at one time there is 2,000 people attending a service. So it comes back to awareness. Yeah. Earlier the viral is maybe the Mufti is not aware of the neurodiverse needs or support. Yeah. So I want to look at it positively. So even church for us can be an overwhelming experience, and it takes education, no different as we have been talking to our audience in the podcast, whether you are a teacher, a parent, what more if you're a preacher, a pastor, where as we mentioned earlier, both of you mentioned earlier, it's a place of safety, it's a place of care, it's a place of love. We draw lah on that. Even in places of worship, it needs to be upskill. There needs to be awareness, just like what Desiree had managed to advocate for. Yeah, be aware. This is how neurodiverse individual, what situation can help them be calmer, what situation we need to then wear your sound protector, for example, kan? So it's still that two-way thing of awareness, yeah, to accept.
Okay. Sorry, I've got a question for Didi. Didi, bukankah ada sekalangan budak-budak yang autisma ataupun neurodivergent, sorry, minta maaf, yang memang dah khatam Quran dan memang boleh boleh menjalankan like the prayer.
Yes.
Ada ke?
Betul. Ada, we call it tahfiz, dia hafal the whole Quran kan. Dan juga sebenarnya kita ada seorang individu nama dia Nur Arif. Dia adalah ikon anak autism Selangor. Adalah penuntut pelajar PhD. Peringkat PhD pengajian Islam. Dan dia juga telah respons kepada statement tersebut dan menyatakan hukum-hukum di mana of course kita tak boleh kata haram sebab yang ada pun antara harus dan tidak digalakkan. Makruh ni maksudnya macam lebih baik tidak dibawa anak yang aktif untuk bawa ke masjid kalau akan mengganggu. Tapi tidak digalakkan maksudnya kalau dibawa juga tidak berdosa. Tapi kalau kita memikirkan tentang kita tak nak membuatkan orang lain kurang senang, akan mendapat pahala lah. Cuma zaman sekarang ni kan kita banyak mendengar juga pendapat-pendapat di mana masjid tu sendiri perlu menjadi inklusif, di mana ia bukan saja tempat untuk solat, bukan tempat untuk sembahyang saja. Jadi waktu-waktu lain boleh menjadi tempat untuk menyebarkan ilmu. Even ada masjid yang buat carnival OKU, yang memanggil penceramah untuk buat forum tentang OKU. Dah ada masjid yang ada ruang untuk anak-anak, kan macam bila tarawih tu ada sort of ada childcare, ada orang jagakan kanak-kanak. I think the same thing can be applied for autistic kids as well. Jadi the effort is there, cuma belum meluas ke seluruh negara lagi, dan it's in the process lah. It's happening. Cuma kita mahu lebih menyeluruh dan semua orang pun ada awareness dan ada effort lah untuk ni kan, untuk ke arah tersebut. Kerana saya juga ada dengar beberapa cerita di mana bila anak-anak ni kan masa dia kecil dibawa ke masjid, kemudian kalau ada macam nakal sikit ke apa, kalau anak tipikal kena marah, dia rasa biasa. Alah, oops, ternakal, kena marah, balik tak ada rasa apa-apa. Tapi anak autistik bila kena marah, dia jadi trauma yang berpanjangan. Lama nak hilangkan trauma dia. Dia nak pergi masjid lagi, dia teringat lagi apa jadi pada dia masa dia umur 6 tahun, 5 tahun. So, dekat situ pun menunjukkan kesan psikologi kan yang berbeza pada anak-anak autistik. Dan kita nak melatihlah anak-anak ni untuk boleh pergi ke masjid. Dan kita pun tak tahu anak-anak autistik ni kan dia ada kecenderungan yang, maksudnya kalau dia minat sesuatu, itu dia punya forte, dia boleh jadi sangat, ni lah macam Anik cakap, dia jadi tahfiz. Sekarang pun kita dah dengar ada yang buat PhD dalam pengajian Islam. Tapi kalau kita tak dapat expose, tak boleh bawa pergi masjid, mana nak kita nak tahu itu dia punya kecenderungan kan. Jadi it's part of pelatihan, so they should be allowed to go, diraikan dan dengan rasa hati terbuka lah kan. Tak bolehlah macam keluar statement-statement macam ni yang membuatkan masyarakat, keluarga-keluarga yang ada anak autism rasa tak layak ke anak saya untuk dibawa ke masjid. Sedangkan sebenarnya kan waktu ketika statement tu dibuat dan banyak komen daripada keluarga-keluarga family yang ada anak autism kan, yang menariknya ramai juga yang berkongsi tips-tips untuk mengajar anak-anak membiasakan diri pergi ke masjid. So it's always like two sides lah kan, ada yang emotional, ada yang nak berkongsi, tapi satu lagi side yang kita sendiri nak perjuangkan ialah awareness daripada pihak masjid itu sendirilah. Betul tak?
Yeah.
Betul.
Kita nak usaha juga.
Betul.
And to sambungkan tu, when you mention tempat ibadat menjadi tempat pembelajaran actually.
Yep.
So I have visited quite a few NGO groups that is formed, and dalam church tu, gereja tu, dia ada bengkel terlindung untuk independent life skill. And that actually has become another place of safety, of learning, and of skills building. Yeah.
Yep.
So that is something we can continue to learn from and expand. Yeah.
Sebab rumah ibadat ni ialah public space kan yang kita boleh gunakan untuk fungsi-fungsi seperti itu. Okay, let's move on to our next issues. Ini berita jugalah. You all ada yang minat KRU tak?
Oh.
Di studio ada yang angkat tangan.
Ada.
Ada yang angkat tangan. Oh,
Ada.
Okay. KRU
Senyum.
go back to kan masa kita
Zaman sekolah.
zaman remaja, zaman sekolah. Oh, Desiree lagi muda kan, so zaman remaja.
Wings.
So ini kisah tentang Edri KRU dan anaknya. Mereka menetap di luar negara dan telah kembali bercuti di Malaysia, dan ada insiden lah yang berlaku di mana apabila anaknya seorang remaja autistik pergi ke sebuah kedai dan dilayan dengan agak kasar dan sehingga membuatkan dia terpaksa cakap, anak saya gila lah. Boleh tak? Faham. So, it's something yang bila kita baca mula-mula pun rasa sedih, dan bila ada video dengan penerangan dia berceritakan kembali insiden tersebut, um, very menyentuh perasaan lah. Dan of course bila insiden ni berlaku kepada seorang selebriti, berita ni sangat viral, sangat panas dan ramai orang berkongsi kisah ini di social media. Jadi nak dengar Anit dululah, apa pandangan Anit tentang insiden ini?
Actually, it brought back those memories that I said in our pilot episode kan, bila Nirav was navigating a trolley kat supermarket, and I had to explain that he was just not being clumsy or delaying things, and it was his special needs. So I just hope that with this podcast, we will have more awareness. Mungkin podcast kita belum sampai kat pemilik restoran tu kot. Tapi, you know, especially anak remaja, ada yang nakal, ada yang akan terus pergi ambil barang dari restoran tanpa membayar. So, I believe that sometimes the reaction is because budak-budak sekolah pun ada yang nakal, ada yang buat macam ni, and perhaps the restaurant owner, I hope, thought that it was just a neurotypical kid trying to be naughty, and that's why he reacted like that. But the fact that the word crazy had to be used before the restaurant owner understood just made me feel that we are still on a long journey for awareness in Malaysia, and hopefully with time and with awareness and more conversations, we will get there.
Yep. So I'm just going to jump in, Didi.
Yes,
sebenarnya this particular story is very triggering for me. So bila keluar on social media, sebenarnya I tak baca most of the news. Hari ni baru I baca betul-betul, because we're going to talk about it. Because Hans has a tendency, and I think kakak has witnessed it before, dia akan pergi duduk di meja orang lain dan cuba ambil minuman mereka. Right? And he's still a kid, so he can get away with it. Kan? People will think he's being cheeky and all that. But I have to acknowledge that it will come to a point, it may come to a point when he is older and people are going to react in a very adverse way. So, I think the main thing I want to say today is to Adri from KRU, terima kasih kerana sudi berkongsi cerita ini dengan orang ramai on your own social media, because I think Adri is also aware of his position in the community, having a large following, and this is one instance of using that power for good and for awareness. Kan? And I have goosebumps now. As our kakak always quotes Dr. Stephen Shaw, to get to that action part, right? We need that first A, which is awareness. And when people in that position of influence create that awareness, it gets wider. Yeah.
So to sambung to that, again, Idri, thank you for again advocating lah, and we will continue to advocate, because there's always new families or just new individuals yang belum lagi dapat awareness, tak faham, belum faham lagi. So I like to pull on the positivity side that I always look at. We continue to use that story as part of the continuous awareness of how much we need to continue telling stories. I believe generally the public are kind, and hopefully the kindness overflow. These incidents, we replace it lah. We keep replacing until acceptance becomes the action.
Yeah.
So I look at it positively, and we expect to continue to hear more because the neurodiverse community will be there forever,
Absolutely. Yep.
And grow.
isn't it?
And grow.
And grow.
And grow.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Edri, for sharing his stories, story of him and his son yang membuatkan ramai orang sedar yang insiden begini masih berlaku di Malaysia, dan harap-harapnya ramai yang lebih aware lah, yang ramai di kalangan kita yang ada kelainan kan, yang kita perlu beri lebih understanding lah, dan beri ruang untuk mereka, dan memaafkan jika ada yang tersalah ke lain daripada yang lain. So getting used to other than the normal things that we see every day. So yeah, be more empathetic and everything.
And from all of us to this amazing teenager Emery, we are sorry it happened to you. The rest of us embrace you.
Yep.
So Malaysia is still open to you, and doesn't mean that not all of us are like that. So we're sorry for that one bad incident.
Yes, sebab kita dah 47 episod dah bercakap tentang ni dan mengharapkan better awareness dalam Malaysia ni kan. Jadi a lot more lah. We have to do more, dan ramai lagi kan yang tak mendengar lagi, tak faham, tak pernah dengar ataupun tak pernah mengalami, tak ada experience kan dengan individu neurodivergent. Jadi dekat sini I think I want to also call out like all those our listeners and our penonton kan, do share our snippets, share our YouTube, our Spotify links kan, untuk pada mereka yang kita rasa memerlukan, dan untuk masyarakat lebih faham lah tentang keluarga kita, anak-anak kita, supaya this kind of incidents harap-harapnya semakin berkurang dan akhirnya tidak akan berlaku lagi.
Yep.
So like, share, subscribe,
InsyaAllah.
cepat-cepat.
Cepat.
Yes. Yes, bukan semua orang boleh buat podcast, tapi sebab podcast ni dah ada, please share around. So, kita cakap tentang dua issues, pengalaman pengalaman individu autistic or neurodivergent yang di kawasan public. Selain daripada kita memerlukan awareness, of course kita perlukan anak-anak kita untuk menjalani terapi sebagai latihan, memberikan mereka kemahiran yang diperlukanlah dalam kehidupan seharian. Jadi isu seterusnya adalah tentang satu statement daripada, saya pun baru nak buka ni, statement daripada Menteri Women, Family, Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri. Datuk Seri Nancy mengatakan bahawa kita memerlukan 6,000 pakar terapi autism di negara ini. Kita sudah ada 498, not even 500 ya, 498 orang speech language therapist dan 2,473 occupational therapist dalam Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. So kita perlukan 6,000. Comment please.
I like to take this one
Yes,
kalau
please.
boleh ya.
In fact, we are going
Yes,
to sit back and
And
listen
listen.
to Kakak. Sebab allied health is her forte.
Yes.
So thank you Minister Nancy Shukri to alertkan. As we earlier talked about, kalau kena inclusive, we have to have awareness, but eventually we need action. Now, how can we act when it is so clear for the whole country? Her numbers were there is 6,000 OT, just OT alone for autism, not even addressing keperluan aged care, keperluan other PWDs that requires therapy.
Stroke and post-auto.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let me pull out some numbers that put into context what the minister shared. The World Federation of OT states that in their report, the ideal OT to patient ratio is 1 OT to 10,000 patient. Okay?
Wow.
For Malaysia, we are currently at 1 is to 17,000. Almost, we are definitely short. Yeah. But what does that number really mean? So maybe we just look at our neighbor. Their statistics to our neighbor in Singapore is they currently, and they are also still short, they have 1 therapist to 5,000 patients.
Wow.
Now, I won't even mention what is the patient to OT services in the more developed country. So our gap is ketara sekali, very short. So the call to action before that, not only is it short, sebenarnya the training institutions that is available to train therapists, let me go back to OT again. In the public university, ada 2 aja.
Program.
2 universities in the whole of Malaysia to produce, the data there states over 2,000 OTs. Now, sebenarnya just now Desiree had clarified. Yeah, in the Ministry of Health, it's 1,800 therapists, and the rest are employed by Ministry of Education. Now, how can there be enough services not only to serve but to educate jikalau we are so far short? So, a call to action, please, if you are the Minister of Health, more importantly also combined with the Minister of Higher Education, we need a very urgent reorganizing of training and education of professionals. And my mention just now itu therapist cara kerja aja. Like you say, when the speech therapist is less than 500 to serve the country, you don't have to be a mathematician. There is no way that is adequate. Yeah. So the call to action for many is, whilst we wait for the professionals to be trained and to qualify, we have to, as parents, as educators, equip ourselves, learn, and do whatever we are able. Because doing something and supporting our children with needs is key than waiting for the professionals. Yeah. So that, I think, is what I really want to share. We know we are short. What must we do? And we must do it very fast. And in the meantime, don't stop. Please get help.
What about the loss of talent to the neighboring country? I think that is also contributing to the lack of therapists in Malaysia.
Yeah. Sebenarnya therapist globally tak mencukupi, let alone the brain drain. Yeah, we've been discussing this at Oasis and in our industry ever since I started working, berkecimpung dalam this allied health. Yeah, sebenarnya we cannot stop our therapists being hired by other locations because there is a global shortage. That's why, thank you for bringing it up. It is so much more urgent. We have excellent local university. Trust me, I hire therapists both from our national universities, public universities actually, as well as therapists that have been trained overseas. And the fact that the overseas country will hire our therapists. Now, I want to say that we have excellent training ground. but we need capacity building. Okay, urgent capacity building. In the report, the minister mentioned that there has been growth in centres, and we know dalam swasta pun the learning centres have been growing. But the question is, who is serving in the? Who is trained?
Yep.
Who is continuing to get professional development too? Yeah, because it's not just by qualification, it's by continuous professional development. Okay, I do want to shout out to Kasuma, our human resource ministry. Last year, they initiated a nationwide national training week that brought to attention the needs for training, for increasing job opportunities for people in service for neurodiverse communities. However, who is getting the training? Where is the training location? That's urgent. Itu saya hebahkan. We need to hear it from the parents. How do we feel when we know keperluannya memang tinggi? Tapi how can we share a bit of that?
I think when there's a shortage, it leads to desperation, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that I think it's been acknowledged that there are more private centers opening up, private practitioners offering services. The question then is, how qualified are these people? Are they really qualified occupational therapists, speech therapists, or have they just done a short course and they think they have some semblance of OT and they've shadowed another OT for a month and then they go out and do it? Because that is dangerous lah. There's no two way about it. That's dangerous. I've had experience with that as well, where we were misled to believe someone could do speech therapy when they couldn't. Right? So, and that happened to me being in the community, also knowing, a lot about and constantly learning about it, what more people who don't know.
Yeah.
I think it also leads to the duration between each therapy sessions becomes longer because you have so few therapists to deal with a larger pool of patients. So, pesakit yang perlu, I can't even say pesakit. Sorry, individu yang perlu all these allied services tu memang ramai. Tetapi kalau terapis tu sikit, jangka masa di antara satu therapy session dengan satu yang lain menjadi lebih panjang. Dia ada backlog and then effectiveness dia memang kurang sebab dia, katalah kalau kurang daripada 500 speech and language therapists. I think then jangka masa in the public sector between each therapy sessions kadang-kadang berbulan.
Sampai 6 bulan pun ada.
In 2017, when Hans was diagnosed in a government facility, the frequency for speech therapy was 1 in every 6 months. And that was only because Hans was about 3 by that time. And he was younger, so he got more sessions. The 1 in 6 months was more sessions. And it wasn't a great experience for us. I mean, nothing against the speech therapist. Later, now that I reflect, she's probably overwhelmed, right? The session was 10 to 15 minutes of her talking to me. She didn't even look at my child.
Right.
So and like what Dr. Choi said, is brain drain as well for them.
So in response to families, there is to the credit of Ministry of Health, there is under BSKP. So look out for your therapist. Make sure that they are registered. Ada akta under the Bahagian Sains Kesihatan Bersekutu. It's a subunit of KKM. So in short lah, BSKB. Make sure that therapists that you see are registered. Sama ada dia terapi bertuturan ataupun fizio ataupun cara kerja, just ask, and they have to reply with a the membership number. Yeah, so that's one way of checking. Because sebenarnya ada ramai sekarang, to add to the issue of kekurangan, there are many freelancing therapists. And I think there is room for freelance therapists. However, to ensure that they have the quality, they need to have a minimum number of professional training hours. And that comes back to sama ada dia sudah berdaftar. Berdaftar dengan BSKP. So that's the minimum requirement lah.
Okay.
The rest is every individual will add on their postgraduate learning kan.
I want to give a shout out to Nirav, speech language therapist now. She has been working with him for over 7 years, and as he grows into as a teenager and now to adulthood, she's still working with him despite having migrated to Australia. So
Yes.
Wonderful.
hi Melissa, I hope you're ever watching.
Yes.
And she still does groups on and social groups online. So she still does an amazing job.
Yeah, so this is in an instance where we talk about leaking brains, but they have the heart for our Malaysian patients or
Yes.
clients or individuals. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies, let's take a break for a while. Hai, selamat kembali ke episod ke-48 kita Family Podcast. Hari ini kita bincangkan isu-isu semasa yang berkaitan dengan dunia autism di negara kita perhaps. Well, hari ini sebenarnya pagi-pagi lagi kita mendapat satu perkabaran yang gembira of course, menyentuh hati, many tears also, of course yang terlibat secara langsung lagilah, kami yang tidak terlibat secara langsung pun menitiskan air mata bila mendapat berita tersebut. Jadi saya serahkan kepada Anit untuk berkongsi berita terbaru.
Okay, hari ini dalam sejarah, 16 Januari 2025 bagi community OKU Malaysia. Saya ingin memberitahu betapa harunya kami sebagai advocate bagi gubalan undang-undang dan law reform di Malaysia dan advocate bagi anti-discrimination against OKU di Malaysia, bahawa ada satu kes yang telah difailkan pada tahun lepas berkenaan satu individu yang telah mengalami diskriminasi di sektor awam di kerajaan bahagian Kementerian Kesihatan di semasa berkhidmat dalam kapasitinya sebagai seorang kaunselor. So saya ingin bagi shout out to Cheng Bao Zong, or as all of us know him as Bao. Bao, for your courage for taking on a case when you had been discriminated against. So cerita dia macam ni. Bao adalah seseorang yang berkelayakan sebagai kaunselor dan juga mempunyai Masters in Counselling Psychology daripada Universiti Kebangsaan. Dan beliau berkhidmat sejak tahun 2020 sebagai pekerja kontrak di klinik kesihatan di Pulau Pinang. Dalam tahun 2021 ada kekosongan untuk placement tetap. Jadi beliau telah cuba dan apply, dan pada masa itu beliau telah menepati saringan dan dipanggil untuk temuduga, tetapi tidak mendapat placement tetap lah. Tetapi dalam tahun 2022 beliau telah pun disahkan atau diagnose sebagai an adult dengan autisma. Dan beliau lepas itu telah mendaftar menggunakan kad OKU kerana diagnosis beliau adalah Autism Spectrum Disorder Level 1. Ini melibatkan hanya social interaction dan communication yang menjadi sedikit masalah bagi beliau, tetapi tidak mempunyai apa-apa intellectual disability atau tidak mengganggu dalam beliau menjalankan kerjaya beliau. Pada akhir tahun 2023, terdapat kekosongan lagi bagi the same permanent position bagi pegawai psikologi. Dan beliau telah memohon sekali lagi untuk position tersebut. Tetapi kali ini, perbezaan daripada 2021 dengan 2023 hanya satu. Beliau mempunyai kad OKU dan status OKU beliau telah pun diupload dalam sistem Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Awam. So, 2023 beliau mendapat respons tidak dipanggil untuk temuduga kerana tidak menepati saringan. Dan saringan yang biasanya dijalankan oleh Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Awam adalah saringan akademik. Seperti orang lain, beliau juga berkelayakan. Kalau tak, tidaklah digaji sebagai pegawai kontrak kan. And he had data of seeing more than 1,000 patients and clocking in more than 2,000 counselling hours by that point. And tetapi dikatakan tidak menepati saringan. Dan beliau dalam kesusahan telah bersedia untuk mount a legal battle. Jadi beliau telah membawa kes kepada Mahkamah Pulau Pinang dan menuntut hak beliau supaya tidak didiskriminasi. Hari ini Yang Arif, Datuk Kwee Chiu Sun telah pun memberi perintah bahawa BAU telah pun didiskriminasi dan membenarkan permohonan beliau untuk semakkan kehakiman, dan dalam masa itu membuat satu deklarasi bahawa sebagai seorang OKU, beliau pun mempunyai legitimate expectation supaya tidak didiskriminasi apabila cuba akses pekerjaan di sektor awam. Itu menjadi satu win for the OKU community. Tetapi saya juga telah berkongsi berita ini dengan semua podcasters dengan kebenaran BAU, dan ingin podcasters ini juga memberi ulasan. What is your view on what happened today? I mean, I'm biased. I'm a lawyer. That we now have a legal precedent. Thank you, Justice Kwee, for standing up for the rights of the disabled. But let's hear it from the rest.
I think we should rise and celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number one bagi saya, Encik Pau telah brave himself to speak up, to act. So the awareness, the acceptance semua is to act. But what I also want to add is his action ada dapat support dari the people involved, like Anit here and the several other individuals.
Yes, his lawyer, Mr. Surendra Anand, job well done, and the Malaysian Bar who went in as amicus curiae, and Puan Sharin Begum, who submitted before the court as well.
Yeah. So to Pau and all the supporters, so the message from my heart is terima kasih to be bold, to ask and to take a stand in a legitimate way, not out of just anger or emosi, but to follow the process. And by following the process and credit to the judiciary, the outcome is really hari dalam sejarah. Yeah, so congratulations. And this is only one of, I believe, more that we can work within the system to advocate and to take our appropriate place in our communities. Well done, Bao.
Yes. Well done, Bao. I'm going to echo all that Kakak and Anit said. Thank you, Bao, from the bottom of my heart for doing this, for advocating for yourself and for all of our children, right? I think what I really want to comment on here is how this was a clear-cut example of how the OKU card was used as a tool for discrimination.
Absolutely.
Right? And this is why in Malaysia we still lack the numbers. There is no accuracy in our data. When there's no accuracy in data, there is no budgets allocated. There's no funding for the relevant departments, which leads to not enough allied health practitioners. Right? So if we don't have the data, how does the government allocate the funds, and how do the education institutions allocate the programs, right? So thank you, Bao, for doing this, because now it makes other people braver. If you have been discriminated against because of the OKU card, know that now there is a legal precedent in this country that you can use. Don't take it quietly. Shout it from the rooftops if you have to. Get your day in court, because your bravery will then lead to more people applying for the card, because it is actually supposed to protect you, right? And we hope for better data so that we can have more funding, more practitioners, and just good stuff all around.
Yeah, I just want to tambah satu lagi that came to my mind. Yeah, so there is the call of nothing about us without us. Yeah. So I really believe that having Bao will be a very invaluable allied health practitioner, where it is from a lived experience. I believe his ability to even share what it feels like, what it's like, will be very positive for his clients. Yeah, although we know professionally we have the patient and professional boundaries. Yeah, but live experience. This is really the walking out of nothing about us without us.
He probably will bring more compassion into his
This
job.
practice, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Didi, kata-kata terakhir berkenaan hari ini dalam sejarah.
Itulah bila dapat je kan the news, I texted Bao, congratulate him, and then bila I cakap, oh you won, tapi dia punya reply, no Didi, we won. I macam, so humble, and then like he thanked all the supporters, the team, legal team, especially everybody, and he said something that like this happened because he has kind people around him. So I really wish that each of neurodivergents in Malaysia has nice people around them as well. So whenever this thing happen to anybody else, they get supported, and then whatever fight that they have to face, there be people fighting for them as well. So yeah, a happy day, momentous, historical. I'm like, yelah, baca teks pun menangis. Ini kan lagi kan orang yang terlibat, Bao sendiri, and I heard that it had not been easy fight lah kan. This one whole year perhaps kan, dah setahun juga kan. So I like what Desiree said as well. It shows that now it's time that whenever things happen, speak up. If we need to take legal action, we can do that as well. And also kan kalau kita dah banyak kena discrimination, stigma and everything in the society, tapi masalah sekarang sistem pun masih lagi tak updated dengan this OKU Act and everything, and discriminating OKU. So I hope things will change for the better, and all the best to Bao.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bao.
So
Congratulations.
my last thing is what Desiree brought up about the card OKU being used as a tool for discrimination is also because as lawyers we always want everything very black and white. So currently Bao mounted his legal team mounted a challenge under Article 8.1 of Perlembagaan Persekutuan that says everybody is equal before the law. But there is an Article 8.2 of the Federal Constitution that specifically specifies that a person in Malaysia cannot be discriminated against on the grounds of race, religion, and gender. And we, as advocates, have been advocating that the word disability be added in Article 8.2 so that there is an express provision in the Federal Constitution. That means ada satu dengan menambah perkataan ketidakupayaan dalam Artikel 82 Perlembagaan Persekutuan, at least hak-hak OKU akan tertera dalam Perlembagaan Persekutuan. So that is our wish for a better Malaysia and hopefully a more inclusive Malaysia, and with such an amendment, if it happens, with the grace of God, memang kad OKU itu tidak boleh lagi digunakan sebagai bahan untuk diskriminasi.
Say no to discrimination. Not just say no, don't do it. Don't
Just
let
don't
it
do
happen
it.
ever again.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, kepada pendengar, penonton Kita Family Podcast, sila subscribe, boleh like juga dan share posting-posting kami. Kami ada full videos di YouTube dan juga di Spotify, dan social media kami Facebook, TikTok dan Instagram. Dan jangan lupa untuk share juga semua posting-posting kami. Semoga meluaskan lagi awareness di kalangan masyarakat. Dan di sini saya juga mahu share bahawa kebanyakan YouTube video kita sudah ada subtitles, English subtitles. Sudah ada caption, jadi boleh kita share kepada kawan-kawan, sahabat atau keluarga yang tidak berbahasa Melayu juga. Dan usaha kita lah untuk menyebarkan awareness, sebab yalah dah lama sangat ni awareness kan, jadi kita memerlukan action juga kan. Any last words on this joyous day?
Celebrate.
Oh, sangat bersejarah dan bermakna.
I will go back to let's learn to love first. I think if we love first, everything becomes easier.
Indeed.
Yes.
And the law is
Seperti
not
dalam-
static, it is evolving. So as a disabled, don't think it is all black and white. There is a chance that you will get justice.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. What a great discussion that we had today. Until then, kita berjumpa lagi episod akan datang. Bye.
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 Bye.